A little bit about my background. I'm coming from kind of diverse background. Started in medical devices in a startup in Israel. We developed an insulin pump for diabetics. It was acquired by Roche Diagnostics, and then I did innovation management at Roche for several years. Then had my own startup, built my own startup, Mobifile. We did file search across apps. As well in Israel, and then went to advising in different startups, from robotics to software to medical devices. And up until a year ago, I led the startup programs at Amazon Web Services in EMEA, and now advising and working with early stage startups to build their product strategy, MVPs, and build their and grow their startups. What we are going to do today is go through something I call ZIZO, which means zoom in and zoom out. And the idea is to have a framework or a method to actually keep in mind all levels of product ideation and design, from strategic levels to more detailed levels of actually building the user actions and user designs. So building products from scratch, either it's a whole product or a feature, is tough. It's hard because you're essentially going and you're in front of a blank paper, right? And you have no idea where you're going to start, where you're going to end. So you kind of get lost in all this, in all the ideas that you have, all the problem statements. Maybe you're not specifically know your user. So, and this is a good point to understand that the zoom in, zoom out framework and method is a part of a bigger framework that you must have when you are thinking about your products. So what are the things that you must know before you start building or designing?
Who's the user? Who's the potential user?
Right. Who's the potential user? Right. Who are the users? You really need to define who is your user base, and also what is your problem statement. You can't just run and design and build your product and spend tons and tons of money on development. You got to understand what problem you are solving and really crisp it and clarify. So this is
sorry,
yeah?
I didn't want to interrupt you. When you get the pause, I want to add some of the...
Go ahead.
So sometimes it's a challenge to know who's your right first user or your beachhead segment. Because I saw some instances where you go for another type of user and it will confuse you at a point. So I'm just curious to find out from your guys' experience, or especially from you, how do you find the right type of first user to build around?
So this framework could help you do it, but I think in general you need to understand that it's an iterative process, and you might find that you might start with one user and one hypothesis that you're designing for, and then you might pivot to another one. You might check it with A/B testing, user interviews, and launching your product and understanding, get all the feedback that you can. And then if things don't work, you need to pivot and try another use base, another problem statement, another hypothesis. So one of the things that especially early stage entrepreneurs do, they go straight to developing. They forget everything. They have a problem, they jump right in, they start spending hours and hours, but they don't move back and zoom out to see the strategic level, where they are. And this is the iterative process. You must understand if the things that you are developing and building are working or not. And if it's not, you need to step back and think it over. So product leaders and entrepreneurs have to think both strategically and go into details. But it's very hard to do because you have tons of things on your mind. You need to do everything yourself if you're one or two founders. And even if you're a PM in an early stage startup, it's tough because you have a lot of it on your mind. And this is why we need to work in a framework that puts us in a mindset and gives us some kind of rules and a platform to know where we are going in this chaos of tons of things that we are doing, designing, problem statements, user base. But I think the most difficult thing is to switch modes, is to one day or 1 hour to be very into the details and deal with the colors of your interface, the graphics, maybe different devices that you're building for, and then move back and think strategically about your market. Okay, what is your market? Competitors, other things that are more strategic in terms of your business that will affect your design. And the difficult thing is to switch those modes. Okay, to think one time in a scrappy mode, designing, and switch to a focus mode. Okay, to do one thing and focus on it specifically. So the zoom in, zoom out is all about switching and shifting between 3 layers of design. So I start with flow, and flow is the actual user flow, is the high level, design level of what are the steps that the user takes when he interacts with their product or service. And then we dive deep into the interface. The interface are the screens. If it's a digital product, it's a screen, how the screen looks like. But if it's a physical product, it's actually how it looks or how we handle it in different positions. And then we dive deep into another level, which is the action level. You need to design the user actions in those screens or your physical designs, what actions the users do. Okay, how many actions are they doing? So these are the 3 layers of design. What's important to understand is that the zoom in, zoom out method is not a linear method. So we can jump from the flow layer to the action layer and whatever it takes. And the beauty of it, that you can go dive deep into the action layer and understand something which is more strategically high level and then go back to the flow and change something there. Cool. So let's start. We're going to start practicing. And what I did here, I took Uber, and it's a very, everybody knows it, very general example. And we're going to go step by step to see the zoom in, zoom out method in action. So let's start with the user design with the flow. So this is how a user flow looks like. It's very simple. If you ever did flowcharts or algorithms, you can do it in 2 ways. First one is a list, 1, 2, 3. What are the steps that the user take? And the second one is a flowchart. So here the user opens the app and then he signs up and then the user gets to the main screen. He has 2 options, okay? The user searches for a destination, okay, or he can browse the map. He or she can browse the map, okay? If they search for a destination, did they find their destination? If yes, they choose the right type. If no, they go back to the main screen and look again. If they did, does the user continue? If he is, we go on. Okay? So this is a user flow. You don't have to be an illustrator for that. You don't have to be a designer for that. You just need 2 boxes. Okay? So now, if you have a product that you're working on currently, or you have an idea for a product, take a pen and paper, okay? And we'll have 5 minutes and just draft your user flow. Okay? Go ahead. Take 5 minutes. Cool. So whatever you did, it's awesome. You don't have to put everything out there because it's a process. And even when you do it one time, you can do the ZIZO method like in one session, but then continue it like it's a long-term work. Okay?
Why is it called ZIZO method?
It's a zoom in, zoom out. Okay? Who wants to share his flow?
I'm happy to.
Go ahead. Can you tell what is the product and then?
Sure.
Awesome.
So the product is voice experiences. So it's actually a product that is not a standalone product. We sell it to other companies that have a product that needs the voice experiences being part of it.
Okay.
So for example, we work with car companies to create in-car voice assistants. So the flow would be a voice command to activate the in-car assistant. And then the assistant is activated and offers to help. And then you say your intent, the user says its intent.
Mm-hmm.
And then the assistance would be provided, so there's an answer given by the system. Now, if it's correct, that's great, and then you can ask a follow-up question on the information provided, or ask additional. If it's incorrect, then user would probably try to ask again, and then hopefully maybe if that was rephrased, the system can pick it up and provide the assistance. And there's also a use case in which it's just out of the scope, or just the assistant doesn't have the information, and then it will say, ideally, I'm sorry, I don't know that one, or I don't have the information on that.
Awesome. So in this exercise, what did you do, to do? I mean, what did you do to understand how to build it?
Well, in reality, we just get the manual, the written manual from the car maker, and then it's a long technical journey. So based on the written information, you need to create a voice experience out of that. So you'll train the data, you'll collect data, then you train the data.
Right. So this is a more in-depth algorithm of your product. But I think one of the things that you've done here is put yourself in the shoes of your user and really take step by step what's going to happen when I use my product or feature. Okay? And you saw here that it's good for voice applications, and probably you had for apps and web apps and mobile apps, and also for physical. It's all the same because you have a user and you take him in a journey. Okay? Let's go and dive deep one more layer. Okay? Let's zoom in. Okay? And go into the interface. So this could be, here I have the Uber example. Okay? But it could be a voice application. It could be a physical application, a physical product, and it could be a service, whatever service, and even a program that you're building. Okay, something which is not necessarily digital. But let's go here. So the idea is to grab each block in the user flow and develop it into an interface or a screen or some kind of interaction, which is more design. So here it's the most generic example, a sign up. So you have a screen, you have two types of sign up with an email, sign up with Facebook. Okay? For each one you have a screen. Okay? First name, last name, email, and a submit button. And then here a user gets to the main screen. Okay? After that. So if we take another block in the user flow, user gets to the main screen. What is it that we have in detail? How do we design the experience, the actual visual experience of the main screen? So we have a map, we have cars, the ride, okay, maybe different types of rides. We have a search box with a placeholder inside. Every little detail affects our user experience, right? So each part of the flow should have a parallel dive deep into the interface level, right? So we have different options of doing this. My favorite option is pen and paper, okay? Just draw your experience. And you can do it, you don't have to be an artist or a designer, you just need to build your wireframes. Anyone knows here what wireframes are? Awesome, it's like the most simple design that you can do with a pen and paper, whatever. You can go after you're doing this and build something more sophisticated, okay? There are programs like Balsamic, which are more similar to this type of illustration, and you can go in and use Adobe Illustrator or XD or Envision, which is a great product. But we're taking one step further into the user experience. The thing is that you need to, after you're doing this, go back and think how this exercise affects the user flow, the more high-level layer of your design. So let's take another 5 minutes, okay? Take 1 or 2 boxes of your user flow that you've done in the previous exercise and really build your screens or physical product or whatever, okay? Take 5 minutes, design it. Cool. Was it easy?
Like the first time, I was thinking about what it looked like, and then I was translating what it looked like into like steps. But drawing it out, I just drew what was in my head.
Awesome. So this is different. I mean, the different steps are good for different types of people. Some people think more visually, so you have one picture in your head of how it should look like. But you go straight ahead to the detailed level of the design. So the previous step requires you to think about the more high-level design and then really understand if what you meant to design was a good fit for the flow and vice versa. Okay? Who wants to share his design? You want to share it?
Yeah, I mean, just the login aspect of the system. Someone comes to a page, they enter some data, and then it comes with a splash if you want to log in or register.
Okay, so it's a login. What did you have, like in the login? Did you have login with Facebook or?
No, so it was just
name,
email address, role, to get an idea of the background.
Okay, so what is the product that you?
It's a prop tech tool.
Okay, so you had another field role that maybe others didn't have to insert. Most people, when I do this exercise, do a sign up screen design. The reason is first that I hooked you because I showed here a sign up design, and the second is it's a very generic and everybody knows it and it's very simple, okay, to do it. But it's a good exercise if you're building a real product to go and understand what are the fields that you detailed over there. Do you really need to require them for the user to sign up? Okay, and we'll go to the action layer and I'll tell you a story about Mobifile of a mistake that we've done.
That's getting the right balance.
Yeah.
It's not putting people off actually signing up.
Yeah. Anyone else did another type of in the back?
Do the sign in.
Sign in? Mm-hmm. Who did sign in? Everyone.
I may give a feedback to product buy. If you buy a product, give a feedback.
Give feedback. Okay, and what did you have? Which?
Well, I have.
What screens?
My idea was a very innovative application for buying stuff. Okay, and then you have an image that is the logo of the shop. You can interact with different shops. Okay. Then you have an image of the product with the price, and then you have 5 stars that you can select, and then a button to submit your feedback.
Awesome. So you had, I mean, it's a user experience, and it was one of the flow of the stages of your flow.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, the strong thing here is to go back after you've done this, after you designed it, to go back to your user flow, one level up, and think what would change there because of what I've done here, because of my design. Should I change the order? Should I change the paths? Or maybe should I add one option, one or two options, or omit one or two options? But let's zoom in, okay, to the action level, okay? And it looks the same, but it's not. Action design, user action design, you really need to design the user actions that your user are going to take in each interface. So for each interface, you need to understand exactly what are the user actions that are going to occur there. So what you see here is exactly the same, okay? The user sign up in the high-level flow layer, the interface, but this time I'm counting and I'm looking at only at the actions that the user takes. So he goes to the screen. He has to fill in his first name, his last name, his email. He needs to click on the submit button, okay? And then I list here in a box, right aside, the actions and the number of actions, okay? Which is 4, okay? Here in the main screen, so the user gets to the main screen, we have what we had in the interface level, but this time we have the search destination using the text, so we might scroll, so this is 1 or 2 or 3, these are multiple actions, okay? So we might think of another feature to simplify this user action, okay, of scrolling, whatever. We have a search box here, so we might add another action for search, okay? So we have multiple actions, but what we need here to understand is how we design those actions. And one of the things that we did as mistakes at Mobifile is in our sign up and registration design. And the problem was that the product included connecting different apps. So it was a document search app, okay? So you could search in one app at Mobifile. You could search documents across Gmail, Dropbox, Google Drive. Would you like that? Yeah, everyone. It didn't work. We shut it down. But one of the problems was that in the registration flow, a user had to connect multiple apps to our app, an API, okay? So each app, he had to fill in his username, his password, click OK, go to the third-party screen, click consent, go back, choose another one. So it was a minimum of 15 actions just for the registration. And what we saw in the data, after a while that we understood it, that we had a lot of users coming into the registration but leaving without completing it. So they didn't even experience the main experience of the app. We just lost them there because we had multiple actions and too many actions. This is what I mean because you need to design it and optimize it to help the users make your user experience simple and without without a lot of friction. So what we did was we used the data in the mobile device that was already stored, and we pivoted the design into one click, and then it would pull all the information for the specific app from the phone if it had access to it, and then it was one click and one consent. So we moved from 5 actions per application, connecting application, to 2. So overall, if I connected 3 applications instead of 15 actions, we had 6. Okay, so it's a major, major change, and we found results that people really completed the registration. Go ahead.
What were the numbers behind conversion, like in comparison, in terms of how many people then completed registration? Did it jump from like 2% to like 50%? What's that interest?
So at the beginning, it was hardly 3 or 4%. Nobody completed it, and it jumped to 33%. So it was quite a big jump for us. Still, when you're doing something like this, and you have, if we need to reverse engineer what we've done, in terms of user actions, you need to maybe segment your actions. Because your users, not necessarily, they don't know what they're going to experience. They need a lighter version for you to give them. So even if I think about it, even 6 actions are too many for registration. You need to do like this, okay? Go click connect with Facebook. It's 1 click and then. Okay? But this is, the power here is the understanding that actions are the focus. Okay? So you need to count them, you need to give them the right focus and really design them and optimize it to make it simple for the user to go ahead, no matter in which interface. Okay? So now go to your screens that you designed and really think about your actions. Count them, list them on the side in a box, and really understand if what you've done was too many actions or you need to change it. Okay? Let's take 4 minutes. It's going to be easier. It's an interesting thing about thinking about action design when you're dealing with voice applications.
That's the thing, that
Right.
it kind of, one of its purposes to overcome this, all of the steps. It's an advanced enough system. Potentially, if you take your example, you could say, log my Facebook account and my user is A and my password is B. And
Right.
then it's like one action said in one sentence.
And this is one thing that you can, even if you find out that you have lots of actions and you want to minimize them, you might use, instead here, you put your voice activated search and you immediately drop the number of actions. But what's interesting about understanding that you have too many or a few actions is how you can use the different layers to fix it. So immediately when you say, I have like 6 actions, how can I optimize it? Okay, let's delete 3. But maybe you can change the design. Maybe you can go back and switch the order of your flow. And by doing so, you can really minimize the number of actions that your user have to take. So it's still important, and again, this is the power of this method, to go back and use all the things that you've done, the flow layer, the design layer, the interface layer, and the action layer to fix each other, okay? Let's talk about hacks. How do you make sure, so this is, it's cool, we've done this exercise, but how do you do it with your teams, okay? What is one of the biggest problems of product leaders? Managing teams. Alignment. Keep everybody know what you're doing, what is the right focus, what is the right goal, what are the problems that we're working on, the sprints, okay? So to do this, if you're going to do it with your teams, one hack is to keep everything visual. So if you're using a large whiteboard, keep it in 3 parts and make everybody see all the different layers. And this is how you can track and keep everybody aligned with your user flow, with your interface, with your actions, and then discuss and have a discussion about the relations between the different layers. Okay? Another thing is that if you keep it on the wall, or you can do it like in digital, you can do it even in Google Slides, okay? And you keep all the slides and you share the slides and everybody can see, okay? And you keep updating them. So it's an iterative process and it's endless. So you learn along the way. It's not like a one-time practice and you're done. You're going to change your flow tons of times. Okay, you're going to change your interface tons of times and your actions. So this, you need to keep it live and keep it updated. That's it. It's very simple, but it's very strong method, I think. And I've used it especially with a lot of early stage founders of startups that didn't know where to go and how to start. And then I just told them, okay, let's go with the user flow. What the user does, okay? And then from there we went zoom in, zoom in, zoom out, zoom out, zoom in, okay? And we created some package of those 3 layers.